What's going on, folks? It is Super Bowl weekend, and we are the Knucklehead Podcast Network, and we are coming at you for our Super Bowl preview. Baltimore Blaine and Coach Shane McGowan are with me as usual, and we're going to break down a little bit about what's going on this week. We're going to talk about the two teams involved, and we're going to kind of break down what both these teams need to do to win. And at the end, of course, as always, we're going to make our pick for the big game. So I want to get a quick kind of question to both of you. We'll start with you, Coach. Legacy. Do you think this really adds anything to the Pats' legacy if they win this thing, or is it just kind of another notch on the belt?
Wow. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's every win and every time they make it as far as they do adds on to their legacy. There's no question about that, because you're going to look back and say, as the future goes on, what team is going to be able to do what they've done or what they can and where they're going to be as well. So, I mean, really, it will definitely add more to it, especially to the Belichick and Brady era, if you want to look at QB to coach ratio like this. So it does make a difference in that way. But, I mean, if they lose, you still got to respect the fact that they've done as much as they've done over this past how many years and decades to be a team to be reckoned with in that way. So, like I said, it's kind of a catch-22 or however you want to look at it. But my opinion is that it is a huge thing if they win this one. It definitely is going to make them be what you call the team of a decades of championships and everything like that. So it is going to be interesting.
They're kind of 2 decades in a row. They beat a team in the 2000s and the 2010s.
And that's something that's so unique. You know what I mean? Like, really, when you think about it, that's totally unique in that way. So, I mean, like I said, they've done so much to get where they are by being a complete team. Let's put it that way. They've been a complete team. So it will do some things for their legacy. It really will.
Blaine?
I think that, I agree with coaches. Every win is going to add to the legacy. But more or less at this point, it's another notch in the belt. It's not as exciting as, back when, they were doing it, about 10 years ago. Right now, you expect it. If they get deep into the playoffs, you expect them to get to the Super Bowl. And the big question after that is whether or not they win the Super Bowl. And it is unusual that a team, a dynasty, goes this long in the NFL, which is built for parity. Again, this is built for parity. It's going against the rules. But, when you're in a division that is set up for you to get there every year, as far as competition level, then, that happens.
I think, though, I'm going to say this, though. I think for them to get to the Super Bowl, I think was a little bit more scarier for them with the teams they had to face.
I agree. This year, definitely, because a lot of us were writing them off. When I say us, I'm meaning myself, whether or not they would get there. I will say that it's more exciting when they don't get there. When you build up to that, to whether or not they're there, that drama. When you build up in a playoffs, well, will they get there this year? Will they get, like I said earlier, previously, you expect them to get there, but then when you get to this point where is Brady and is Father Time really on the team now? A member of the team now, slowing everybody down. Gronk doesn't look the same. Edelman doesn't look the same. Brady doesn't look the same. And then, bam, they turn it on in the postseason after their bye. And then they had another bye last week, and going into the Super Bowl here, that everyone gets. And you wonder, can they be defeated after the bye? So that's the big drama now, is who's going to win the Super Bowl, with new versus old, a new era versus the old era. That's my big story.
Yeah, well, I get what you're saying about the division, but they still seem to win their championship games, get to the championship game. It's not like they win their division and then stall out against better teams every year. But there is something to be said about being in the weakest division and, getting that bye and getting to play those 6 kind of cake games. I get what you're saying, but I don't
get me wrong. don't get me wrong, they take care of their business. It's just a shame that they've had to take care of their business so easily, as opposed to going up against uh, deeper talented division, someone that's going to challenge them every year. There's no real challenge in that division for them.
No, I agree with that. So let me stick with you, Blaine. You live in LA, so what are you seeing? Is this nothing like a championship run for a bunch of bandwagon fans to jump on board and to really get with it? You see what's going on with the Chargers, where they can't even get the home fans into that little StubHub Center. Are you seeing in LA, when you talk to people, and are you seeing like people becoming like, is this becoming the Ram city? Is it becoming a football town? Do you see the kind of, I mean, it's not going to be like it would be in other towns yet, but do you see a lot of excitement for LA, feeling like, we get this? Do you feel like a sense of ownership of the team, or is it still kind of, they're the Rams, they just happen to play down the street?
I don't see much difference, in my observation than before. LA is just like any other place in the world. It's what's happening now that's going to garner all the attention. And the one true vein that goes through the year is the Lakers. You'll always be able to strike up a Laker conversation or hear a Laker conversation when you're out and about and just talking sports in general in LA. But I've always seen Ram jerseys ever since even when they were in St. Louis. I know of hardcore Ram fans, even when they were in St. Louis. Same with the Chargers. There's always been Charger fans up here in LA. LA is one thing I said about team moving to LA when they didn't have a team was that they would have to garner the younger kids, the younger generation. They would have to get them on board to build a fan base. But they already had the foundation, because you had fans here. You have fans here from every team. I go to a sports bar, and it's not a Rams bar. It's not a Chargers bar. Yeah, during those games, you'll get a majority of home fans that are rooting for those games. But there's always like a mixture, unlike other cities where you go in and it's that team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
it's not.
So I'm asking, is that changing with them going to Super Bowl? You noticed over the last couple
it's not. I think it's. I like I said, I don't see a difference than when if the Rams had made it before. Yeah, you'll get a spike of Ram fans, gathering and rooting for the Rams. I've had just as many Kansas City fans, in my face at the sports bar. It's just the way it is. I think it's too new. It's too young here right now to have a dominant fan base.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll follow that over the next few years. I just thought, there's nothing better to get a fan base, excited besides winning. And
yeah, everybody likes a winner.
Yeah, so a lot of times when a new team comes back, they have to build for a while. So, I think it's good for them. I think I'll be okay. I think the Chargers are going to play second fiddle, just because the Rams won first.
Well, the reason for that, I think, Chris, is because the Rams were playing here more recently than the Chargers. The Chargers you still have people calling them San Diego, because instead of calling them the Chargers, you refer to them as San Diego as a second name. So once the Chargers do something here, you'll get more people on board. More people will embrace them. But it was still more of a Rams town than a Chargers town.
I gotcha. Well, thanks for that. And I guess you're on the ground there, so I'm going to go with. I thought there'd be a little more excitement, but I definitely believe you. So I know you're in it. So let's get to it. It's the Super Bowl, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at this from two sides and two parts. We're going to start off with the Rams on offense and the Pats on defense, and we're going to look at it, kind of dissect each part, both of those sides, and kind of figure out. We'll talk it through with each other on what these teams need to do if we think they're going to be able to do it, and then that'll help us make our determination on who you're going to pick as a winner at the end of the night. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to talk about the Rams running game versus the Pats. Now, one of the ways that the only way that people have really been able to beat the Pats over time, over the last 10 years, and is to be able to run the ball and to be able to throw to the running backs out of the backfield. That is the Patriots' Achilles heel. That's Belichick's Achilles heel. When you can get those wheel routes, the option routes from the backs, kind of doing what they do with James White. When you can get those kind of plays, it really can eat away at what the Pats like to do, which is rush, play man-to-man, or when they play zone. You can really get some of the skilled players out into space. And I think a big, important part of this game is whether or not they're going to be able to get the ball to Gurley and throw the ball to Gurley, screen to Gurley, get the running game going. Also, what the Rams do on offense, where they run their 21 formation, where they have the one back in the tight end and then the three receivers, when they're running that, what you need to be able to do when you're doing that 11 personnel is have people buy into the play action. So I think it's very important that the Rams kind of run this. So before we get into that, we'll have Blaine talk about the running backs after this. But Coach, after everything that's going on with Gurley, they said that he wasn't hurt. He was just playing. He said super sorry, which is why he was on the sideline for that entire game. What mentally, because he looked beat. I mean, he was moping around. His press conferences have been low energy. I mean, what do you think he's got to do? And do you think, because he looks kind of whooped. I mean, what does he have to do? You're the mental coach. What does he have to do mentally to get up for this game, to be able to be the player that they need? And and it's coming out of practice that C.J. Anderson's doing better again. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that whole situation?
Well, I mean, first, they're very fortunate that they got C.J. Anderson. Okay, that's the number one thing. That was one of the best things they could do in case of situations like that, whether the back goes down or not. But I'll say this, is that, McVay has taken responsibility and has said, you know what, for Gurley's, poor outing and everything like that, it was because he needed to do a better job of getting him the ball as well. He didn't call the right plays at certain times for Gurley and everything. As a player out there, man, you are getting frustrated when things are not working out the way you want it to. But that, again, is become immature in some ways. I mean, he's not an immature guy. It's just immature on the field in which you're frustrated. You want the ball. You want to do things. You want to make things happen. It's like you can't catch a break because also CJ goes in there and things open up for him. And it's like, you know what? That should have been my play, whatever. So there is that little bit of, you feel a little unease at times. Right now, I'll say this, is Todd Gurley is saying, this is my last game. It's winner take all. That's it. You're going to go out there and ball no matter what. And I guarantee you that is his head right now. They know that. He knows that. C.J. Anderson is in there just to help him as well when needed. And again, in the end of it, it's about winning the game as a team. All right? So, I mean, if he's got to sit on the sideline and C.J. gets it, he gets it. If he gets the ball coming out, he gets the ball coming out. Either way, he's going to play his heart out. There's no question about that. If I'm coaching him as a mental game coach, I'm telling him, what got you here is all your success of what you've done on the field all season long. And you know how good you are. And he knows that. So like I said, you're right. To beat the Pats, you got to have a run game. And they're relying on both of these guys to do that. And I think they will. I really do. I think Gurley's coming out to show that screw the conference. This one is for Super Bowl, and I'm going to take this one. That's what I would be saying.
Well, Blaine, if you're looking at the player props, Vegas seems to believe that Gurley's going to make a comeback and CJ is going to play second fiddle. Do you think that Gurley's going to make a comeback? And either way, do you think that the Rams are going to be able to run the ball or have some kind of game plan that includes the running backs in the passing game?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Gurley is going to come back. I think he's just, despite what you hear these players say about not knowing or not paying attention to the press clippings, they are all into the press clippings. They know what's being said about them. Gurley knows what's being said about them. He knows the doubts that have been seeded. As with any competitive athlete, he is going to come back and he's going to shine. He's going to give you his best effort this game. He knows what's on the table. It's the Super Bowl. Might not get back to this level again. May take a long time to get back to this level again. Who knows? But right now you're in the pot. You're on the field, and you have a chance to make a difference and make it work for you now. Everything is now. So I think Gurley's going to make I think he's going to have a big game. And I think that Anderson will also be a major factor in this game as well.
Well, the Pats have been susceptible to the run during the year. They've kind of tightened up, just like they always do. As soon as Thanksgiving hits, it's something in Patriot land. They always say the season doesn't start till after Thanksgiving, and you can really see a big difference in the way they play defense after Thanksgiving, as to a couple of games that they get away before that kind of drove up that stat line. Something else that I noticed, and we'll go back to you, Blaine, and then we'll go to Coach. The Rams' offense against the Pats. There's a couple of things that I saw last week, because if there's two offenses that are kind of similar, we saw it in that crazy Monday night game where they played each other. It's the Chiefs and the Rams and all that. Sprinting down the side, misdirection, running backs coming for a jet sweep, fake toss, throw it down the field, a lot of crossing routes, a lot of go routes. They're always kind of moving. And, the Pats are going to get up and they're going to do what they did against the Chiefs. They're going to try and jam those receivers, mess up the timing, which did kind of work. But they do give up some stuff to the running backs, to the tight ends. And, that misdirection did work. Williams ran all over the Pats. So, that kind of makes me think that, they have a shot. They did get to Mahomes a bit. They really trusted their corners, and their corners did a good job. I think they're going to have to do that again. But I think, that a lot of that misdirection worked pretty well. Maybe they had a chance to see it, but I think, maybe this is not the best matchup for the Pats. What do you think, Blaine, and then Coach Shane?
Well, in the air game, I agree. I think that the Rams have an advantage with as far as weapons on with the receivers. Cooks, Reynolds, Woods are going to have, or they're going to get theirs. And then put that together with what's coming out of the backfield with Gurley and Anderson. And yeah, the Pats defense is going to have, they're going to have to come with their A game. What they're going to have to do is put a lot of pressure on Tom Brady, not just pressure, but they're going to have to hit him and hit him often. You hit him and you hit him often, and he starts to make mistakes, just like any quarterback. He suddenly becomes mortal and starts making bad decisions. So that, and I'm looking at that, and you're right. The misdirections.
More on the Rams offensive side though. We're gonna get to Mr. Donald coming up in Mr. Brady's face in just a second. Well, just more on what the Rams have to offer against the Pats defense that has kind of been playing above what they played all year.
Yeah. Well, the same with Goff. You hit him often. He makes mistakes. He starts to make bad decisions. He's careless with the ball during that time. As far as throwing into defensive coverages. So yeah, what Goff needs to do is he's going to live off the play action. If it really depends on what kind of pass rush comes at him from the Pats. If he's got a clean pocket, he's going to be effective. If he's going to play action, he's effective more than Brady, according to the stats. But the offensive line has to keep the pressure off of Goff.
Coach?
Well, Okay. The if we're looking at the Rams offense, is that what we're talking right now?
Yeah, we're talking about the Rams offense versus the Patriots defense right now.
Okay.
Basically.
The thing that they're going to do is you summed it up earlier when you said, they got to do some screen action. They got to do a lot of things like that with Gurley coming out of the backfield, everything like this, to get those linebackers moving and to create some openings. They've got enough talent with the tight end and with the receivers out there to do some damage. It's those third down conversions that they got to make sure that they don't have to be third and long so much. They got to stay in short. I think, though, ball control is going to be huge. And I do think that Goff is going to be able to call the right, McVay is going to call the right plays for this. It's just, is Goff going to have the time to throw that ball like he needs to and get around? Because, the one thing I'll say this about the D line of the Pats is they get their hands up. They deflect that ball an awful lot. You know what I mean? And you got to really have good timing on this. And that's a skilled thing that this defensive line is doing. And they're coming up there with their hands up all the time. So Goff's going to have to make sure that he times it better, because a lot of times that ball gets tipped and boom, you got an interception, right? So that's going to be very, very key in this game. And you're going to notice that right away, I think, from the start, as soon as these passes start coming around. But I think, like I said, Goff and that run game, but he's got the receivers. It's just that O-line's got to make sure that they can at least keep them protected for a little bit standing up.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So I'm going to finish this section off with a question for you, because I think with the game plan you guys are laying out makes sense, but that's only if that running game's working. The corners have really kind of stepped up. Gilmore is a top 3 corner in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. McCourty is, I think, 14th or 15th. Their other corner on the other side, the one that's going to get a lot of Woods, is the one that is their slot corner, is the one that's a quote-unquote weaker link, but he's still a pretty good cornerback. And they've really kind of turned it on. They're playing Belichick situational, smart football, like you say. They're knocking the ball down. They're getting turnovers. They're doing things that they need to do. One thing that Belichick is famous for, this can be a quick answer if you guys want. We'll go back to you, Coach Shane, and then to Blaine. One thing that Belichick is famous for is taking away one thing, the best thing that you do. Anytime he goes into a game, he takes away one aspect of your game and then makes you beat him with whatever else it is. And I think they're going to use what the Bears did against this team. I think they're going to choke out the run. I think if they realize that, going back to what both of you guys said, play action, like you were saying, Blaine, if they can't run, the play action really is not going to scare anybody. And going to what you're saying, Coach, about those, short down and distance, if you're 2nd and 10 and then you run into a brick wall and you get only, 2 yards, and you're looking at 2nd and 8, 3rd and 10s, 2nd and 10s the entire game, it's not going to work. I think that's going to be what they're going to do, is they're going to mush blitz. They're going to stay in their gaps. They're going to really stay home, and they're going to let those corners go one-on-one with the receivers and try and bump them at the line of scrimmage to take their timing off and really try and be physical with them. You saw my team, the Seattle Seahawks, they barely lost twice, mostly because they couldn't stop Gurley and they couldn't stop a few things that I think the Patriots are going to be able to do. But when you out physical the Rams, you can put them in a bad situation. I think that's what they're going to try and do. And I think they're kind of built to do it. So real quick answer from both of you, going to you first, Coach, and then to Baltimore Blaine. What do you think Belichick's one thing that he's going to take away is going to be?
Oh, there's no question about that. That pressure is going to come up, and it's going to come hard. I mean, here's the thing. Mahomes is a more scrambled quarterback and more mobile quarterback than Goff is. And he was running for his life last game out there too, okay? Now you got a guy that's more of a pocket passer that doesn't want to have to be running if he doesn't have to. And if they can come with that same type of pressure, a few blitz packages here and there, but those DBs are going to bang them from the start, and he is relying on his front line as well as those linebackers to create the havoc for Goff to be thrown off. There's no question about that, man. That's how it's going to be. And if that happens, it's going to be a very long day for him in this, and they're going to come up, and McVay is going to figure this out right away too, though. He's going to understand exactly what that defense is, and look at who his defensive coach is as well. I mean, you got a defensive coach on the Rams there that knows his stuff too. So, I mean, it's going to be a real interesting when it comes to certain schemes in that way.
Who was the last defensive coach to beat Belichick in a championship game?
Exactly, right? So, what I'm saying is that I'll say this, some great smarts out there amongst all these coaches. And this is going to become a bit of a chess game if it starts getting really tight on certain things, on who's going to take what chance and see. Because like I said, there's going to be a lot of pressure on some of these players out there at certain times. And if it's not working the way Belichick wants it to, he's going to be scrambling. And like I said, I'm looking forward to this. I really am, because I think it's going to be a very good matchup in many ways.
Yeah, I think that, the Broncos were the last team, Son of Bum was the last coach to beat Belichick in a championship game. But that, we have to be honest, that defense was a lot better than this one. So, we'll kind of see how that works. But so coach says they're going to pressure Goff. I say they're going to try and get the run game and just kind of focus on the run game. We both agree they're going to go after the corners are going to play bump and run. What do you think that Belichick's going to take away from the Rams there, Baltimore, Blaine?
I think you're right. I think they're going to take the run game away, and they're going to pressure Goff. And if I'm Coach Belichick, and as you know, these guys talk to the refs, to the officials before the game, and try to lay a seed in there about watch this guy for this, watch that guy for that. So what I would say is that not only is he going to try and pressure Goff and take the run away, but he's going to try to bring attention to Roby Coleman, which already Roby Coleman is going to have a lot of attention on him from the officials because of what happened in the Saints game 2 weeks ago. And every time that he does something, have your receivers complain and ask for a flag, because there's a good chance that you're going to get a flag this game, a couple of flags this game in key situations against this defense, the Rams defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all on the same page on how we kind of saw it at the end of the year when the Rams dropped a couple of games. They were held under 100 yards only a few times this year. Those were all the games they lost. That running game is going to be really important. There's a whole article in Sports Illustrated on Monday Morning Quarterback, if you guys want to look it up, on the color of the jersey and on people using different colored gloves so that they don't contrast with the jersey, and different teams want the lighter colored jersey so the gloves are easier to see when they're getting grabbed, and all the stuff that goes into it is kind of fascinating. All right, so let's go over to the other side of the ball with the Rams on defense and the Patriots on offense. And what I want to go to first is the Patriots have kind of under the radar become a power running team. They're one of the few teams that use a fullback still. They'll come in with, the extra tackle. They'll come in with Gronk, the fullback, and they'll really run it up there. In the playoffs, Sony Michel is averaging 26.5 rushes per game, and he's one of 3 running backs that they're using. Last week, it was Burkhead that got 2 touchdowns. Plus, they throw Cordell Patterson out from the backfield, and they run James White when he either catches the ball or he runs the ball. So, it's a pretty stout rushing attack, and the Rams can get beat on the ground. So, go to you, Coach, first, and then to Blaine. What do you think about how important is the power running game that the Pats have, kind of shown us over the end of the season here in this game? And do you think they're going to go to that? Or do you think they're going to do something else?
Well, there's no question about that. They're not afraid to run the ball. They're saying, hey, listen, I got all kinds of backs that I can use out there at any given time. And I honestly think, though, that White has proven to do a lot more than just worrying about getting a couple of yards up front. He sneaks out of that backfield, and he's very dangerous, whether he's by himself or whether he's got some old linemen in front of him. So he's been used a lot more in that way. And I think that is something that's not only a good distraction to allow certain things for that defense to spread open more. So it creates Hogan that get open and other guys like that, Elderman. But you get White like that out in the backfield, you've got an option. You've got a big-time option. Then you've got a little quick running back in Michel there to just do his thing, right? And that's what it comes down to. So like I said, Belichick has lots of options out there. And I think that what makes Brady very happy too is that he doesn't feel he's got to force anything. He's got all these options and it's working for them. It's just like I said, can that O-line keep Brady upright long enough? And can they open some holes to allow the back to get through? That's going to be very key. That's where that defense of the Rams is going to come in there and play very strong. And they're fast. Rams are a fast defensive team too up front. That's what we got to remember.
Well, I think I agree. I think the Patriots' offense is one of the most balanced that you're going to find, and for a quarterback like Brady, that's just gold. And you saw the way that they took care of Kansas City. Balance. You run the ball, you keep running the ball down their throats, and Brady, takes his spots, and he finishes dicing you up. So I think that's going to be a problem for the Rams is stopping the run, and the Patriots they can do it with just White and Michel. They don't need Burkhead, but Burkhead will be a factor in this. So yeah, as you said, Coach, opening up Hogan and Edelman, especially Edelman, and even Gronk, for plays downfield.
Well, I think that one thing we also know is that Belichick always brings out some wild card stuff. I think you're going to see a lot of Philip Dorsett on. Names. I'm blocking the name out. The kid who just came over from Kansas City, Peters, who can get burned. I think you're going to see some Dorsett. I think you're going to see more Hogan than you've seen all year, and I think you're going to see some weird stuff from people like Cordell Patterson. You're going to see the fullback get involved. I think that Belichick's going to throw the kitchen sink at him.
One more thing.
No, no.
All right.
I got to do one per show.
You cut me off in mid-thought, so you go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. I thought you were finished.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. Real quick, what I failed to add was that I think that if I was Brady, once I did throw the ball, I'd be throwing to whatever receiver is being covered by Roby Coleman, and I'd pick on him the entire game because you know what? As I said before, you're going to get a penalty. He got beat in two key situations last week and looked awful, those penalties that weren't called.
Well, let me tell you why what you cut me off with is wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
I apologize.
I'm just kidding.
I owe you a fish.
There you go. I disagree with that a little bit for two reasons. One, Roby Coleman is their best corner, according to the entire year as far as how things have graded out. Peters has been pretty bad. Talib hasn't been there that long, but he's been a little bit slowed down. But Roby Coleman, he is physical. He does grab. A lot of the best corners are called. He holds all the time. He gets away with it a lot. I mean, not to the extent that he did last week. Those are kind of things that people have in their mind. But he is their best corner, according to Pro Football Focus and just the eye test. Second thing is that refs aren't going to call a lot of PIs in the Super Bowl. They never do. Unless you're Seattle in 2005. And
after what happened last week?
Ever. No, I think that they're gonna be sensitive to people wanting more calls. But we'll see. It'll just cap off another horrible season as far as the refs go. But I disagree with that a little bit. I think there is something to that. I know they're going to be right. I know that Belichick's going to be in their ear. Those refs are very aware that the stadium's going to be watching for some blatant calls. I wouldn't be surprised if they have somehow secretly put in something where we're going to take our time and talk over these pass interference calls or these lack of pass interference calls, and we're going to talk to the upstairs. But attacking their best corner, and hoping for penalties. I don't think that doesn't sound very Belichickian.
What do you think, Coach?
Oh, look at. I guarantee you, the refs are going to be watching this like no tomorrow. Of we're under the gun, and they're going to begin the riot act read to them right now, leading up to this, about have your heads on straight, know exactly what you're going to be calling, because they can't afford any more of these chicken crap calls. I mean, especially after what happened the last times. And so it's going to be real tight, real interesting. And like I said, that's how the game's going to be played. But again, players are going to play. They can't just rely on thinking that the refs are going to call every little thing or not call anything at all. You got to go up there and play and do your job. And that's what it's going to come down to. And Belichick's going to tell them that. Do your job. If you do your job, you're going to have success.
So let's go to something that you guys have both talked about. I'll get you more in depth. I'll give you my kind of 2 cents to set you guys up, and you guys can talk about this. And because we talked about the Rams cornerbacks, kind of. So we'll just go to Brady and the pass rush. You know, in the Super Bowls that they lost and the ones they almost lost, the two that they almost lost, it's all about pressure up the middle. In the playoffs, Brady, pressure on the outside. When it gets close to him, he has 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He has a great passer rating. Pressure up the middle, he has 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, and a much lower passer rating. So you get to get pressure up the middle. And who do they have sitting right in the middle there is number 99, who is just a beast and obviously one of the best players in the league at any position. Now you take that, and something that's kind of interesting to me is, you know, Aaron Donald hasn't really had a sack in the playoffs. He hasn't had a sack in a few games, even though he had 20 during the season. And Vegas, for some reason, is giving crazy money on him not getting a sack and definitely getting under 2 sacks and 3 sacks. The bets are actually really good. Anyone who's listening who wants to find the player prop for Donald to get less than 3 sacks, it's a great line. It's like a plus 150. But do you think they're going to be able to get home and rattle Brady? Do you think that Belichick can have that plan for that? And they seem to do a really good job of that. Do you think? Because I think if they get pressure up the middle, then I think the game's pretty much over. But do you think you're going to be able to do that? Let's go to you, Coach, and then to you, Blaine, and then we'll sign it out.
I think he always finds a way of getting pressure. I think that's the thing, is that he will always find a way to get pressure up the middle, or at least get the hands up to cause some type of a distraction, which is the other thing you got to think about too. Look at whether I get to him or not in some cases is, did I do my job of getting my hands up and in his face and making it more difficult to get it over me? Because look, you're dealing with 6'8" guys whose arm spans reach up to 7 feet, for Pete's sakes. You know what I mean? Over that. And then they're jumping and everything like that. So there's a lot of things that are in front of you. So, I mean, Belichick will find that way to create some havoc, and he's going to try to pick it up pretty fast too as the game goes on, and depending on the situation that they're in, whether they're up or whether they're down, of how they got to play that offense of the Rams. So, I mean, like I said, is if the guys aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that's the player's fault. But if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, it's going to be a hard-fought battle in there. And I think Belichick's got his homework. He knows what he's doing out there. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting battle, that's for sure.
So we're talking about pressure on Brady or pressure on Goff?
Pressure on Goff.
Pressure on Brady, coming from Donald up the middle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that well, let me put it this way. I don't think that it's going to be as much pressure on Brady as it will be on Goff, because the running game was going to be working pretty well for the Patriots. And so I don't think you're going to have Darnold able to sell out to get to the quarterback. So, but when he does, he needs to hit, again, like I said earlier, you need to hit him. You need to touch him within reason. I mean, don't be drawing flags for unsportsmanlike conduct or personal fouls or what have you. Or roughing the passer. But what you want to do is you want to know that you're there, and just to get in his head and make him hurry his throws a little bit. But I think that there's going to be more pressure coming from the Patriots up the middle than possibly than Darnold and the Rams.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing: is I think Dominic Sue there is going to be able to do some things. I think he's gonna create some havoc up that gut because, like I said, these guys are playing for the last game out there. They're finally in that big bowl game. You know what? Yes, Patriots have been there so many times and everything, but some of these guys on the Rams who have tasted a game close to it, they need this, and I think this is going to be a very, very interesting defensive scheme by the Rams. I think Coach Phillips there, he's gonna have his own little tricks up his sleeve of what he wants that defense to do, and Donald's gonna have to perform, no question about that. But I just think that if they don't take any bad penalties, cheap penalties, they might do okay.
They do take cheap late hits.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you can't afford to take that. But on the flip side of it too, though, is you also can't take those phantom calls either. So I mean, this is where it comes down to the refs.
Well, on that note, I do agree with Chris that they're going to let this game play out as much as possible with as little penalties as possible. I just think that Roby Coleman is going to be under a microscope for everything he does, and that's why I was saying what I was saying about throwing to him. I'm not talking about throwing at him every play. I'm talking about throwing at him often and making him, because he's got to feel the pressure too. He knows he's going to be looked at.
It's going to be one of those things where us at home and the guys in the booth are going to be paying more attention to that than I think
Where's the flag? Where's the flag?
I think where the coaches are. Oh, it's Roby Coleman. I actually.
But let me tell you something.
They're going to have a plan.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
I didn't want
one more
you
thing, Blaine.
Oh,
I didn't
my
want you to sign
gosh.
off.
Oh my god.
No, I don't. I'm afraid that you're going to sign off before I get my thought in on this. And there's one thing that I wanted to bring up is.
I know.
Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead and say what you have to say.
I still haven't had a chance to talk about pressure on Brady yet because you cut me off twice.
I know.
We haven't made it.
I owe you two fishes.
One more thing.
Well, I just wanted to say that let's not take for granted about these coaches. We got the new era coach against the old regime, and they're both savvy as far as calling their games. We know that Belichick. We know what Belichick does, but so does McVay. And it's just like a player. You the more tape you have on your subject, the better you are to prepare for him. So I'm thinking that McVay is going to have some things up his sleeve to counteract what Belichick comes up with. Because, like I said, there's much more tape on Belichick than there is on McVay. And I think McVay has the edge in this as far as calling this game. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to that, or, you see some things where you go like, wow, with McVay. So that's all I wanted to say. I could have just saved that. I know. But
you could have.
I owe
you
you
could have
fishes.
just saved that.
I owe you 2.5 fishes now.
That was a dynamic speech. Dynamic speech.
Yeah. Well, I don't even want to go back now. But basically, I think the Pats are going to have a plan for pressure coming up the middle. I don't think that I don't think the Rams are going to get home too much. I had more to say, but I kind of got lost there with the whole, I don't know.
I'm shutting up for the rest of the show.
I don't even know what happened. So I lost my whole train of thought here. Let's see. Let's go to
Blaine, man, what are you doing, Blaine?
It's a sign of age.
I was gonna
He's
say.
Getting old.
I was gonna say that kind of going to what Blaine was babbling about there. These are two of the best in-game. Both McVay and Son of Bum on that side, and Belichick, running his whole puppet show over there with those coaches he has. They are some of the best in-game. They make modifications in-game better than most any other coaching staff in the league, and they know what to do. They're teams that modify their game plan every single week to who they're playing. some teams, they do what they do and they're going to do it to you. They'll make some modifications. They do their homework, but they do what they do pretty much on a weekly basis. These guys will completely turn their team around, become a passing team, be a running team, turn a blitzing team, turn a man team, become a zone team. I mean, they change around every single week, and they can do it in game. And I think that's something that really sets both these teams apart, which is part of the reason why these teams are there. So something to look forward to. So, Mister, one more thing. Give me a winner and give me a score.
I'm sweating over here. Okay, so that's the hardest part for me. My heart says Rams, but my head says Brady and Belichick and the Patriots. I just can't get past the. I just can't get past the. I think the Patriots after a week off are just going to be more dominant. They're going to get a quick start, build up a quick lead, and the Rams are going to have to play from behind. And with the young Goff struggling, if he doesn't have, I mean, not saying that C.J. Anderson and Gurley won't have a running game, but whether or not just how effective they're going to be. So as far as the winner, I'm going to say it's going to be the Patriots again. But score. Oh God, score. I'm going to say 35 to no, that's too low. Let's go 42 to 35.
Oh, good gravy.
Okay. Coach?
Okay. You know what? I gotta say that the only team that's gotten me this far has been the Rams, because I keep going against the Patriots each time. I thought Chargers would beat them. I thought Kansas City would beat them, and the Patriots just kept winning. But the only team I kept saying was going to go was the Rams, and they kept making it. And I'm thinking, okay. So I think the Rams, it's the time for them. I think it's their on paper. I think they actually look better. I think they look better on paper. I think that they have a skill set out there to do a lot more damage and can do a lot more things. And I think after that game against the Saints, because really, in all honesty, I think people had more of the Saints in this one than anything else.
Well, I should have won.
Yeah. Exactly, right? So when you see a team like the Rams do what they did, and whether we want to go back to the reffing calls and everything like that, the point being is that team stuck in there and played. They still played. I just think the Rams are going to take this one. I think this one comes to the end, in which it's going to come down to my score is the Rams win this one. I'm going to shoot it out at 20, 31-28. They're going to take it by a field goal, roughly around in there. Yep, by 3.
All right. Well, I think that it's going to come a little bit under what Vegas has. Vegas has, I think, at 54.5 right now.
Yeah, 54.5. That might change within another day or so, though, too. But you're still kicking it around at that.
Yeah. So I
keep your thoughts together, Chris.
I think it comes in just that. My thoughts are. I have no thoughts. There for one more thing.
Yeah, no kidding. You don't got no thoughts because every time you try to say something, one more thing pops up.
Yeah.
One more thing.
So I think it's going to be 30-24. And I think it's going to be the Pats, unfortunately.
Oh, Chris, when will you learn?
I think both teams are going to be able to run the ball, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game in the first half, and you're going to see some really exciting football in the last 2 quarters. I think it's going to come down to the very end. I think the Rams are going to be driving, and they're just going to come up a little bit short.
Because the Patriots have an early lead. Like I said.
It's nothing like what you said.
It's nothing at all like what you said, Blaine.
I said that Rams will be playing catch up.
Well, I don't know about that. All I'm saying is it's going to get much more exciting in the second half, in my opinion. I think they're they're going to come out like a boxing match and throw some jabs, a couple of shots, will land, we'll score some points. But they're going to really let it loose in the second half. And it's going to be the new genius against the old genius. And I think it's going to be a fantastic game to watch, and I can't wait for it.
Elaborate on that.
I think that's pretty well, I think I said it pretty well. I think that's pretty much it. I feel pretty confident in my picks, and yeah. So, any last thoughts there, Mr. Blaine? Before I say something, you cut me off.
I got all my one more things out, I think.
Okay, good.
Oh,
except
geez. As an aside, you got your stats, your injury stats. I'd love to see the stats on the referees. Just no, I'm not. We're not going to pick on the referees. Just forget it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That was really your one word. Okay, all right. I don't know how you
will leave that alone,
Coach. But do you have any?
I will leave that alone.
Super Bowl?
No, like I said, I think it's going to be a good game overall. I think, like I said, is within the first few minutes of both teams offensively out there, they're going to figure out exactly what kind of game they want to go at and what kind of pace and direction when it comes to either running it or passing it real fast. So I think come halftime, depending who's leading this, at the halftime, who makes the best adjustments is how it's going to dictate the rest of that game going forward. So, like I said, I mean, if they look at, I'd be very happy if that game is tied going in at halftime, because then it's going to be a real interesting chess game after that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. Well, not sure what the schedule is going to be like. We're going to talk about that. We'll get that out to everybody. We're going to make this a little more formal starting, coming up just before free agency. We'll take a little bit of a break. We might do a show next week, a post-Super Bowl show. We'll have to decide that on our own. After that, we'll take a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks, but we will be back strong with a good platform and lots of fun new tools and ways to find us starting next year. So in case this is the end of the year, we had a great season. We weren't on as much as we thought we would be. It's kind of a trying season, but we made it through, and we're just going to get better for next year. And I want to thank everyone who's stuck with us on Mancini Sports, on Knuckleheads, everywhere that you guys have listened to us, and all the different shows. So for Shane and Mr. One More Thing, Baltimore Blaine, enjoy your weekend. Don't drink and drive. And let's go for everyone that I bet on.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Talk to you guys later.